Oh, that's interesting.
Good question.
Yeah, that is a really good
I've
question.
never been asked that question. That's never been pointed out to me. That's cool.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Guys, seriously, so good to see both of you again. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, good day, Chicago.
Yeah, we love you guys here. It's funny. I feel like one of the things that I most love about the horror genre, because I was raised on horror movies, is that I feel like it has the power to affect people's behavior more so than any other genre. Like you think like after Jaws, people stopped going into the water, and after Psycho, people were afraid to get into the shower. I'm curious, has a horror movie ever affected just your generic day-to-day behavior in any way?
I mean, I'm still not over The Ring. Like I'm just not. Like that movie really, really, really scared me, and I definitely saw it way too young.
Emma was so happy when VHSs started getting phased out after that movie. She's like, I will never find a cursed VHS.
It's not about the VHS. It's because like any girl with long dark hair, if you'd be at a pool party, would put her hair in front of her face and then like crawl towards you, and it really upset me.
That also has one of the best jump scares in movie history. Like that when that closet door opened and that girl sitting there, her head falls. That's one of the best. Yes, that is one of the best jump scares of all time.
I remember it. I still remember that from the theater. Yeah. I wasn't raised with with religion, but I saw The Exorcist, when I was 13 or 14, and spent the next half a decade convinced I was going to get possessed. That had the lasting effect on me.
That's a little bit more serious than like I'm afraid to go into the water.
Absolutely. I think that kind of weirdly speaks to our film, that I think my favorite horror films are the psychological ones, are films like The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby, Jacob's Ladder, even Hereditary recently, kind of reminded me of this, the idea of the notion that you're watching characters and you want to take the ride with them and you want to trust them, but you don't even really know if what they're experiencing is real or not. That's scarier to me than a shark, even though Jaws is one of my favorite movies of all time.
And it's harder to pull off. And the fact that you guys did is absolutely astounding. So each of you have such a great history in the horror genre. And what's interesting is that you've each played the person wearing the mask. And so you've kind of been on both sides of the horror movie situation. You've been the threat and you've been the victim in a way. I'm curious as to whether or not the side of the horror story you're on affects your experience as an actor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Good question.
Yeah, that is a really good question.
I've never been asked that question. That's never been pointed out to me. That's cool. Yes, I have literally worn the mask, and I've also been killed by the person in the mask. So that's interesting. I mean, it's always fun to be the villain. I think it's fun to be the villain. I love it. But I also what I loved about Abandoned was it was playing like a very real, grounded person, but in this kind of thriller, psychological horror kind of world. And so I think there's something to be said for both. I mean, playing the villain is definitely exhausting, but no, I think it's fun to go back and forth. This was fun for me because I'd never played a role like I did in Abandoned with Sarah, being a new mom and struggling with her marriage and with her new kind of life. And so it was fun to take on something that I'd really never done before.
Yeah, I think when you're playing the killer in the mask or the villain, it's like I try to put it out of my mind, but you can't help but think about like the pressures of being like, well, how am I going to stack up into the pantheon of horror? Like, will I make a good villain, or will I fall short or whatever? But when you're kind of playing something like Abandoned, where it's a little bit more grounded, I think the pressure is a little bit off, where it's like, oh, all I really have to do is trust in this script and believe in these characters and just try to do what the character is doing, which is really just try to be there for his family. I think at the end of the day, he goes about it in some misguided ways, my character, but I think at the end of the day, he's just trying to be there for his family.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, like that's why any movie in this genre works, is you have to have that foundation of like human beings and real flesh and blood characters. And then you bring everything else in. But if you don't have that core base to what you guys bring to it, then it's just not going to work. Exactly. Emma, I feel like a lot of Scream fans right now are freaking out because of the news that Neve Campbell is not coming back for Scream 6. I'm just so curious, what were your thoughts when you heard the news? Because it feels weird to think of a Scream movie without Sidney Prescott in it.
Someone just sent me that last night and I was like, this can't be real news. Like, this has to be fake. I mean, She's queen. That's all I have to say.
She is. She's absolutely queen. Yep. As we wrap up, I am weird in that I told you guys I grew up on all kinds of genres of horror movies, but like in a weird way, they are my comfort movies. Like if I just need to unwind at the end of the day, or like honestly, even when I'm like going to bed, I will put on a slasher movie or I'll put on The Thing. It's just kind of a weird, I'm curious as to like, to what degree anyone else does that? Or am I just kind of this weird guy on like a horror movie island over here by myself?
I'm like, who are your parents? No, I mean, I'm the person that like watches my best friend's wedding on repeat. Like, so yes, you're on your own with that one.
Okay, fair enough.
But to answer, I mean, I keep doing all these horror things. So what does that say about me? I'm not necessarily watching them, but I seem to be doing them all the time. So, so I have a problem in a different way than you.
Fair enough. Well, you're like my drug dealer, except for horror films. Like you're the one that makes it. You're the pusher. You're the one that's like making it possible. John, what's your comfort, man?
I've definitely. I remember there was a night like. And like a Tucson, and I think it might have been, I don't want to bring it down here, folks, but I think in the lockdown of 2020, I remember one night, like starting The Shining at like 2 a.m. and being like, what am I doing? Oh, well. And then, suddenly it's 3 o'clock in the morning and Jack Nicholson is axing his way through the door of the Overlook. And I was like, this shouldn't be comforting me right now, but for some reason it is.
It is. Have you seen Dr. Sleep?
Yeah, absolutely.
Better than it has any right to be.
It's so good because I worked with Mike Flanagan.
Yep.
He's a genius. He's amazing.
Guys, I love you so much. I appreciate you. I try to throw some stuff out at you. It was nice to talk to you. Hopefully I try to throw some stuff out that kept you on your toes. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.